Alright guys, so this is going to be my Q&A for Resident Evil. Over on Patreon, I basically do Q&As that are centric to that are basically connected to a certain topic rather than just do all-out Q&As. Kind of helps level things and make it interesting. So, for this one, obviously, like I said, it's for the Q&A goes up on my Patreon, and as always, if you guys would like to be part of my Patreon, just hit the link below, head on over down there and hit the second tier, and whenever I do Q&As, preludes, that's where you can just log on and send me questions for the next Q&A whenever I post them. It also gives you access to the other other exclusive videos that are going to be on there as well. I'm also going to make a announcement real fast pertaining to Patreon as well, since I'm here, and I'll probably do another video because I'm going to be doing that as well. So basically, I'm going to be doing Patreon exclusive reviews over on Patreon for Monarch Legacy of Monsters. I'm going to be doing episode reviews, and that'll be on my first tier. So if you want to check those out, as well as movie reviews for theatrical releases, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, and yeah. So I thought I'd throw that out here. Anyway, so let's get started. I want to thank everyone who sent me questions I'd like to thank everyone who sent me questions. Huge shout out to that. So let's get started with the video. Starting off with question 1. In a crossover between Ed and Eddie in Resident Evil, oh god, where are the Eds? Where the Eds are in an old abandoned mansion trying to survive the monsters. Could you see something like that? Honestly, not really. I couldn't tell you it. The only thing that would be going for that is the title Resident Evil or Resident Evil. I'm trying to make that work, or something of that degree. But no, I could in no way, shape, or form see that. I'm sorry. Second question. Could you see the Umbrella Corporation doing business with the Black Hat organization, Demon Xanatos, Millennium, Cobra, or Hotel Moscow? Hotel Moscow, no. Well, actually, honestly, the correct answer would probably be all of them, because in most games, we do see that Umbrella does have a lot of financial control over a lot of its assets and little shell companies, and they do sell out. And in some continuity, well, not some continuities, in some of the games, it is hinted that they have sold to criminal organizations, as well as like not just to America. Like, they don't just sell to America and known nations. Like, they'll sell to anyone who's willing to buy, so they can further test their bioweapons. Like, anything to. So I'd say all of them. Mostly. Honestly, all of them could be totally seen as such. Third question. If Black Hat ran the Umbrella Corporation, could you see him using it to go after heroes from all over? Probably, yeah. Yeah, that's the fast answer, is probably. Like, to quote that one character from Bluey, probably. So, yeah. Anyway, the short answer is yeah. I could totally see him using it to go after, like, because obviously Black Hat would want to use things of that caliber and monsters like that, just for not only fear factor, but also, like, I think he would be totally down with some bioweapons. Anyway, thank you for those questions, Hunter Johnson. Moving on now to Tom Hibbert, who asks, if you had to make an original enemy for Resident Evil, what idea would it be? Are we talking like a monster or a new villain in general? I think what Tom means is that it's a new villain in general. So I think what I would do for a new villain in this game series, I would like to do like a weapons dealer, like an arms dealer as an overarching villain. We've had like corrupt senators, we've had cult leaders, we've had scientists or vengeful scientists. I'd like to see one who see a villain, and I would specifically make him a villain for either Chris or Jill. I would basically have it that this guy is more about the top, like, he doesn't, like, the other thing is, I'd have him as a former, special ops guy who has invested a lot of money. He's made himself into a very powerful arms dealer. Would I make him into an end game like mutant boss monster? No. I would actually have it that he would be almost like a Bond villain who who has like gotten a hold of Umbrella Corporation, like the T-Virus, and is now like selling it on the black market. Like, he's not interested in like world domination or bio warfare or studying it. He's more about like money. Like, he's more about greed and, you know, facilitating a war, something like that. Like, I don't think we've had a villain like that or a villain who comes close to that in most of the games. So that's what I would do. So thank you for that question. Your second one is, do you think Resident Evil works in animation more than live action? Yeah, even though a lot of the live action movies have been middling to just okay, I do like Death Island though. I did enjoy Death Island for what it was, but a lot of the animated films are better to look at, and they also have like at least a marginally more entertaining story. Not for all of them, but I think a good amount of them are entertaining to watch. And the live action, even Welcome to Raccoon City, was completely god-awful. I fucking hated that, as you guys know. I will say, though, I don't hate the first two Resident Evil movies. I think the first one is okay. The second one is dumb, stupid fun, even though they do make Nemesis a, like, anti-hero at the end, which I hated. But, honestly, like, compared to all the other Wes Anderson Resident Evil movies, yeah... It's probably the first, probably because I like the like, it does make me wish for Romero's Resident Evil movie that we never got, but hey, whatever. But to answer your question, yeah, animation does it better. Third question, what country would you like to see in a future Resident Evil game? Huh, I like that. That's an interesting question. I like that. I would say somewhere in South America. We've been to parts of America, we've been to Africa, we've been to Europe, we've been to Central Europe. I would say somewhere like South America, like have like Chris or Leon or a new character even jumping through the favelas. Like, remember that mission in Call of Duty? I can't remember which one, but there was a mission in one of the Call of Duty games where you like jump through the favelas. And like, imagine that, but with like being chased by zombies or like lickers or something. Another place I would love to see, Japan. I don't think we've seen... I know we've seen China in one of the games, but I don't think we've seen, like, a full-on, like, it's happening in Japan. Although, it could have happened in Resident Evil 6, but we'll ignore it because Resident Evil 6. Like, somewhere in, like, Brazil or Japan. I would even love to see Australia. Could you just imagine the mutant freaky monsters we'd get in Australia? Like, trying to fight, like, a giant mutated koala or... just a big-ass kangaroo. God. Or a giant funnel web spider. Oh, that one creeped me out. Anyway, so thank you for those questions, Tom. Moving on now to Bill McLaughlin, who asks, do you think that the unknown figure at the end of Resident Evil Village was Albert Wesker or something related to him? I have thought, like, I do kind of believe that, like, you just can't keep a villain down. But I feel like we need to move past Wesker. Although I will admit I won't be shocked if it is Wesker that's revealed for the next Resident Evil game. I do like the theory that it's his son who went rogue at the end. Like it would be a nice way to redeem that like how awful that character was in Resident Evil 6 to make him like follow in his father's footsteps. That'd be really cool. So I kind of like I'm hoping the theory that it's his son is right. But I do think it probably is Wesker. I do think it probably is going to be Wesker. Second question. What is your favorite Resident Evil creature from any of the games? I would say if we're going by basic forces and not like big boss fights, the Neptunes, I would say Lickers. They're always fun to see. Tyrants are always cool. But if we're talking like middle game boss fights, it's Nemesis. Come on, Nemesis like embodies Resident Evil. So yeah, it's bound. If you're asking like big bosses, like a big villain to fight, it's Nemesis. If we're talking about Resident Evil creatures, anyway. So your third question is. Yeah, your third question is, what are your thoughts on the current direction of the Resident Evil games? I like it. Biohazard was a lot of fun. It was a great, like, return to horror series. Village was a interesting game. I think I'm trying to say interesting because, you know, step on me, tall mommy. But I will say that it was more of an adventure series than a horror, and I think it would be nice to have if for Resident Evil 9 to go back to horror. Although I didn't play the expansion, but like the epilogue to Resident Evil 8. I didn't play that involving Ethan Winter's daughter, so I don't know what the story is there. But to answer your question, yeah, I do like where we're going with the series. I do like that, and I'm hoping we get more interaction with other characters as we move forward from Winter's daughter. Yep. So, yeah. Thank you for those questions, Bill. Moving on now to Cyborg 19.99, who asks, how would you do a Resident Evil Kim Possible crossover? Well, I can't really think of a crossover off the top of my head, but I would say that, like, one of the ways I would do it is maybe have it that Draken has stolen the T-virus, but doesn't know, like, he thinks it's going to be like he can control it, or even like, oh, it's not as scary. You know, Raccoon City wasn't destroyed by a virus; it was a nuke. Who cares? So I think like he'd be in over it. It would be something that's in over his head, and then realize, oh shit, something like that off the top of my head. Second question: Do you see Albert Wesker as being an enemy to the X-Men? Yeah. He totally works as a X-Men villain. 100% works as an X-Men villain in every way. He's very much like Sinister, Strife, a lot of these cloner-based villains, and you know, people, even like villains we see in Ortress that tamper with, even like Beast now to an extent. It's very clear that Wesker was very much modeled after those villains, or at least those kind of archetypes at the very least. So yeah, he could totally be an X-Men villain. I think Wesker would be an excellent X-Men villain. Alright, and your third question is, do you think a crossover between Elfen Lied and Resident Evil would work? Absolutely. I think a Resident Evil Elfen Lied crossover would be really cool. Have like the Umbrella Corporation hunting Lucy to extract her Diclonus DNA and try to like splice it with the T-virus and make like new kind of horrors, like something of that degree. So yeah, I do think that could work. So thank you for those questions, Cyborg. Moving on now to David Deister, who asks, if you could remake Code Veronica, what elements of the story would you change and what elements would you keep? Look, Code Veronica is kind of at best a mid game, right? Like it is at very best a mid kind of game. But I do understand its fans. I do understand it does have a place in the RE fandom, and I do think we are probably going to be getting a remake at some point. I would probably change the ending because I just didn't flow with it. It just didn't flow right with everything else. The Ashford family would be better if they kind of extend it, because the Ashford family didn't feel like an actual threat, so hopefully in a remake you could do that. That's what I really feel like. Anyway, thank you for that question, David. Moving on now to our final three questions. The Mount Vernon kid. Chris, how you doing? Now, the reason why I emphasize on if I could remake Code Veronica, because Chris asked me a very similar question. See, there's a difference here. I usually have a rule where I was like, please make sure a question you have that you want to ask has been asked already. But here, if I could remake Code Veronica, that was David's question. Here, Chris is asking, should Resident Evil Code Veronica get a remake? And I'm kind of like, I wouldn't be mad if we didn't get one. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm going to say, is that I wouldn't be mad if we didn't get a Resident Evil Code Veronica remake. I'm just kind of like, it's alright. Second question, do you think Chris Redfield turned to the dark side in RE Village? I think there's something going on with Chris that we will probably get in RE9. At some point, like, we'll get a whole answer for that. But I know, like, there is something weird going on with Chris that it's kind of very much invoking, like, when they made Jill into a villain. They had her mind controlled by taken over by Wesker in 5 and 6. So it's kind of like that, and I don't know. It feels weird. Like, there's got to be a reason why. There has to be, like, a logical reason as to why Chris Redfield is doing this. So I don't think he's turned to the dark side yet, but it does, like, he's edging that darkness. And your third question is, how would you feel if Resident Evil and Silent Hill got a crossover game announced? Absolutely would love it. I think it's the 2 greatest video horror game series put together, and I'm shocked we haven't gotten that yet. I'm genuinely shocked that Konami and Capcom haven't come together to bring us that in any way, shape, or form. Like, have it. You could it makes a lot of sense if you have, like, a Resident Evil character going to Silent Hill, and it's fucked up even more by, like, a T-virus outbreak or something like that. But no, I would love that. Alright, guys, so that looks like all the questions. I want to thank everyone who went on Patreon and asked me questions over on there. And as always, if you'd like to be part of the next Q&A, whenever that should happen, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, hit the 2nd tier. That'll let you access to stuff for 1st and 2nd tier, like exclusive videos. Just comment, but other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. Once again, I'd like to thank everyone who asked questions. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.